The Football Super Preview Show is brought to you by Treadaway's Napa Auto Parts. You know, these two teams are great, but there are some differences between the two teams now. Third down conversions are hugely important all season long, but in the Super Bowl, okay, third down conversions are very important. What's the difference between these two teams when it comes to third and short situations?
Well, both teams excel in third down, I think, if you look at the stats, but it's a different way they get there. The Denver Broncos are going to have Peyton Manning checking a lot of different things. He's going to see something on the outside, and he might check to a pass where a lot of teams wouldn't do that in third and short, but it's something they give him the option of doing. Anytime you see him barking or giving all these hand signals, that's what he's doing. You know, he's trying to get a pick route on the outside or maybe a screen. With the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to try to run the football. They have probably the best big back in the league with Marshawn Lynch, and if it's 3rd and 1, everybody in the stadium knows what is going to happen. It's going to be an ISO run, but it doesn't matter. Marshawn Lynch is probably going to run over 2 or 3 people and go beast mode and get the first down. So it's definitely a different approach. Peyton has a lot of freedom in third down. You know, they call a play in, but it's probably changed 3 or 4 times by the time they actually snap the football. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, if they do have a pass first option, if he'll change to a run, if he'll just keep it a pass.
Yeah, you know, I see that the same way. I mean, you know, Peyton Manning's the more accurate quarterback. I can completely see him hitting Marino in the backfield on a flat like Jake used to do back in the day. Thomas maybe running a hook, you know, short. When I think of Seattle and I think of their third and shorts, you know, yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe they wouldn't hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, but I can also see Russell Wilson scrambling around the backfield, you know, and trying to get away, and he may run for a few of them. But it's only one game, you know, so the stats, you know, kind of throw out the window. You know, Peyton might have a bad game, and that would be unheard of, but it could happen, especially in this cold weather game. So, but I see Peyton as the more accurate guy. I see them converting more third downs maybe than Seattle. But, you know, I also see Seattle trying to control the clock a lot more, which might mean they're in more third and short situations.
I think you made a great point, though. Russell Wilson on 3rd and 1, he can get under center and sneak the football. Peyton Manning ain't going to get under center and sneak the football on 3rd and 1. They're just not going to do it. It's not in the playbook. I can guarantee you that right now.
Well, and the other thing I was going to add, too, is see Peyton, you might think he's going short, so, you know, you'll have those guys up in whatever cover 2, right? And then he'll hit them deep. You know, he did it a few times to run the clock out the other day. So, I mean, that's what Peyton does well, too.
He knows how to get out of that bad play.
That's
Get
right.
into a good one.
I agree. Big advantage Seattle.
Very good. The Football Super Preview Show is brought to you by Whataburger. You know, this is the first outdoor cold weather Super Bowl that's ever been played. And the weather looks like it could be a little rough, okay? What kind of factor does that have on the game, and does it give either team an advantage?
Well, first of all, that's not the first ever, right? Didn't you play in a cold weather Super Bowl in '82?
I did.
Where was it at?
That was the first cold weather Super Bowl, but it was indoors.
Well, I remember. What about the tapes from Super Bowl I, Green Bay, and all this stuff? I mean, it was cold then too. I saw
It looked cold.
I was cold watching it. Let me tell you something about the cold weather stuff, you know, and they can relate to the football aspect. But in baseball, I played in Colorado, and a lot of times on TV, you'd see it snow, and so you think it's cold. It wasn't that bad. You know, cold in Colorado or elsewhere is different than a cold in Louisiana, right? But the trick that the players will see, you'll see these guys, and today in East Rutherford it's 14 degrees. I mean, that's crazy. But they'll put Vaseline on their arms, or they'll put baby oil on their arms. And so you're going to watch the game, you see guys in short sleeves, they ain't that tough, right? They're putting this oil on, and that protects you from the cold weather. So if you see the game, you see a lot of guys without sleeves on. That's what they would do in baseball. And I know a lot of times, man, Todd Hollandsworth, you know, he'd do that a lot. He's tough, man. He's not even wearing sleeves. I know, because he's caked on baby oil on his hands. You know, so they'll do a lot of that, or on his arms. They'll do a lot of that stuff. But it's going to be tough. It's much tougher than playing the Superdome, I'm sure.
If you look at the matchup and you look at what Denver does offensively, in the cold weather, it's going to be a balanced game no matter what. But if the wind's blowing, that's a whole different deal. So if you look at Peyton throwing the football, because they're going to throw the football a whole lot more than Seattle's going to throw the football. Seattle's going to be balanced no matter what. They're going to probably be 50-50 when the game ends, running and passing. So you got to know, is it windy? Is it snowing sideways? You know, those types of things are really going to play into this ball game.
The NFL is very lucky that 2 teams that are playing Super Bowl cold weather teams. You know, you could have San Diego and New Orleans, and that'd be a hot mess, you know. Luckily, you have 2 teams that are kind of used to it. When I was in Denver, we practiced in the snow almost every practice at the end of the year. You just expected it. We had heated fields underneath it that would kind of melt it, but it was still icy, it was still snowy. So I think if it snows, Denver's going to have a little bit of advantage because Seattle's cold, but it doesn't have it doesn't have the snow, it doesn't have the sleet like Denver has. That's something that they practiced in the whole, end of the year.
Sure.
But you're missing the real story here. The real story is mental and emotional because this cold has been there all week. They've been preparing for the Super Bowl in a cold weather site, and there's not that there's nowhere to hide, there's nothing to do but hide because you can't get out. I mean, the week I spent before the Super Bowl in Detroit was miserable because you just didn't have anywhere to go get away. And so that's something they're ready to play. Players will adapt to cold weather. We play the game, and our championship game was the coldest game ever. It was minus 59 with a wind chill. You go out and play. You figure it out,
Yeah, so Bill, can
but
you really practice for that? I mean, seriously,
that's
14
the problem.
degrees,
That's the
there ain't gonna
problem.
get used to that.
No.
Well,
Right?
the real practice happened, the first week before they came to New York.
I think it's such an emotional high. I've never played in a Super Bowl, but to be in the arena with all the marbles on the line for the Super Bowl, the biggest game in the world as we know it here in America, and it doesn't matter what degree it is, it's showtime, and these guys are going to show up ready to play, and that's the fun part about the pageantry and everything around the Super Bowl. The parties are better, the fans are into it, and this is the biggest game on earth.
And trust me, they're ready to play. They can't wait.
All right. The Football Super Preview Show is brought to you by Gippsland Bank and Trust and Treadaway's Napa Auto Parts. We'll be right back.